It's like Ho Chi Minh.
A little bit, yeah. All right, hi guys. Welcome to our GI TV live show on July 21st, 2015. I've got General Kim, aka Vince Kim, manager of our West Coast walk-in store sales floor. And yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff to go over today. But first and foremost, I'm going to mention some folks that responded to our Facebook post about this live show. First of all, Alex Levasseur, please forgive me if I didn't say the name properly, your shout out is approved, as well as Tick's Airsoft Team, that's the Tactical Infiltration and Combat Squad, your shout out is approved, as well as Trident 6 Milsim Group, your shout out is approved. Now I want to make a special note, I got a chance to play with Trident 6 Milsim Group, really great folks, it's a great airsoft team, really just fun to run with, especially Brad, who I believe is on that team. They also gave me a really cool patch, so if you see them at any AMS events or at D14 Airsoft, go up and say hi. They're just really great folks in general, which also leads me to another great set of folks, which is the Blackout Militia, who likewise has their shout out approved. Blackout Militia always, they don't always, but they frequent D14 Airsoft. I've seen them at American Milsim events, and it was just great to have them out at episode 1. It's really great working with those folks. Also, the Hunters, I assume that's an Airsoft team, but the Hunters shout out is approved. Also, a wonderful Facebook user wants me to say, Jackie, you owe Randy a Tipman M4. And that's all the shout-outs for right now. Anyway, we got General Kim here, who, if you weren't aware, commanded Imperial forces at BB Wars Battlefront Red Alert. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent work, Vince. Now, I obviously command all Rebel troops at any BB Wars game I can go to. And, you know, Airsoft Command is a lot different than just being a rifleman, you know, a fire team leader, a squad leader. It's a lot more stressful. Would you not agree?
I do agree. With my prior service background, I've only had an ability to command a small squad of people. However, taking on 100, 200 people at the same time is not an easy task whatsoever.
It's a lot of command and control. It's a lot of just, you know, having like a map in your head and directing people to hot spots that you think they need to go to. Now, actually, mentioning prior service, why don't you explain to our viewers what that prior service is?
So I was a Marine for 8 years from 2007 and recently left IRR status this year.
Is it IRR?
IRR, yes, that's
Okay.
correct. My IRR status actually was only a year and a half because my last deployment actually extended into it. So I had about a year and a half IRR, and that was it. So I guess in reality, the time of service would be 7 years in total. But even though I wasn't in infantry, like being a Marine, being an NCO, you have several Marines who fall under you, look to you for directives, and yeah, it's easy when you have about 7-8 people, but when you move on to 30, 40, 50, 100 and upwards, it gets very difficult.
Yeah, now I remember you telling me. Can I go into some of the details of that deployment?
Sure.
I remember you were in Sicily and you were a load master, and it's something about like you pack more loads than so many in a certain amount of time or something like that.
So my MOS was 0431. I was a logistics embarkation specialist. This deployment was a special purpose Marine Air Ground Task Force out of Italy. And basically what I did was I took care of all the logistical movements within the task force out to different areas of operations over in Africa. And basically I was in country for 180 days and I did over 200 sorties, which would be 200 flights, and that was just a daunting task.
No, I mean, you sound incredibly lazy. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. Actually, Air Panda Gaming would like to say, Bob, tell him I said thank you for his service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Well, thank Air Panda Gaming. Jeez, don't be rude. Good Lord.
you.
Gosh. All right. So, you know, moving on from your background, you commanded one game so far as leader of Imperial forces on the field. What was it like? I mean, your first time commanding at an airsoft event.
First time commanding an airsoft event, I will say I was pretty nervous. And just having to run across the field back and forth from the different areas, the different hot zones of the area.
Yeah.
I was extremely tired at the end of the day. what was the turnout? The turnout was about.
Well, there was a limited amount of people we could have on the field, so I
Mhm.
believe we could only accommodate on Code Red around 225, 250. So each side had around 120.
Okay, so about 120 people. I mean, the radio chatter was going crazy on the comms, like uh, just running back and forth, trying to get everybody to move, keep pushing. Um, it's really difficult. Airsofters, the difference between the whole airsoft and being a service. And the service, with rank comes authority, obviously.
Hmm.
But in airsoft, it's just a bunch of us airsoft players playing together. And people want to do their own thing. They want to have their own fun. So even though there is someone in command, you always have those onesie twosies guys that don't want to really do what you say and just want to go and do their own thing, which I have no problems with. It's fine. We're all there to have fun.
Well, and I think that's a big difference between our BB Wars games, which are not Milsim. We try and be as open and honest with that as possible. There are a lot of other great Milsim promoters out there. And if you're looking specifically for a Milsim game, I would highly suggest checking them out. But BB Wars is, it's meant for the widest possible community that we can get, and we want everyone to be able to come out. So I mean, yeah, there are folks who aren't down for taking orders or military command structure, and it's not really what we're getting. We just want to have command and control.
Right.
So if people want to lone wolf it or just go off and at least try and accomplish objectives as a small fire team, have as much fun as you can. That's what's great about Airsoft. On a small note, I would like to say hi to Action Sport Games Bob, just for stopping in. I don't know if you can see that, but it's nice for you to watch our live show. It's good to see you again, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
And technically, it's a double Bob day since he's present. That being said, it was interesting because on that small, I mean, it's not. I don't want to say it's small, but for that amount of people, it can get a bit, constricted.
Yes.
There's not as much room to maneuver. So I know Code Red's moving to a new facility, but having 100, 120 people on there, I'm sure it can get a little tough. You're essentially just sending people back and forth from respawn, telling them to go there, telling them to go here.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, with the size of the field and with the amount of players, you're very limited in movement. Obviously, um, one of the Marine Corps sayings is, improvise, adapt, and overcome. If you can't go through it, go around it, under it, or over it, or blow it up. So, I mean, with the size of the field, it's a little hard
Mark?
to do.
Sorry. If you can get any info on that stuff, that would help. Shaking the fist.
I don't have much. Let me ask Kevin.
Good talk. All right, sorry to interrupt you.
With the limited amount of field space, it's hard to do actual large size tactical maneuvers, and then obviously without an actual command structure, it's hard to enforce tactical movements because you have no one running that tactical movement in that location at that time. So obviously I try to band together the employees as best as possible as we were playing, so we could actually have some kind of a structure going on. It did work. Slightly, but as the day went on, people are starting to get tired. It's hot, like they just want to be out there to play, and I just want to go shoot people with BB
Exactly,
guns.
yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was really just hold the line and hold it firm. So.
No, absolutely. And I thought it was interesting that you set up your kit to be supportive to your team, so that not only could you direct people, but you also cover their advance.
Right.
So why don't you tell our players what gear setup you were running, or at least overview of how you created it.
The overview was basically I took pretty much the standard loadout that a support gunner would use. So I used an H harness style rig. I had 2 box mag pouches with bottles and bags of BBs. If I'm not mistaken, an average machine gunner carries close to 1,000 rounds on him.
Damn.
If I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on that.
I was gonna say that would be one box mag in the gun, and then 4 on his person.
4 on his person.
Wow, that's a lot of ammo.
So it is an extreme amount of ammo. And obviously the ammo weight difference is a big key factor too. But being able to support from the rear lines to push the Imperial's advance at the same time giving commands from the rear is so much easier, so that way you have the overview of what's going on at that specific section of the field. I'm a big guy on leading from the front, but the guns and gears that I brought out for that game, it's almost physically impossible to do. I remember Paul Kimmon and I were up front on the very first game at the very front of the lines, and we're just asking each other, what are we doing up here, way up here, and everyone else is in the back.
Yeah, no, you definitely, that is a big part of command, is like trying to get people, when you see, you know, a break in the lines, just trying to like emphasize, like, look, we need to do this now. Like, get up there now, not like in 5 minutes. Like, this is our moment now. It's a bit like herding cats, so to speak. I'd also like to make a note that G&G Armament is in the chat, so everyone say hi to G&G Armament. Good to see you guys. They actually were the exclusive sponsor of BB Wars Episode 2 at GamePod, which was my last opportunity commanding, where I can empathize a lot with herding cats, because there are a lot of people that, you know, will follow you because you're the person in charge, but there are a lot of folks that want to do their own thing and are just going to do whatever. However, I'm sure you may have experienced this at Red Alert. But it's like, you know, you can tell people, like, go up here, we need you to get here. But like a lot of times they'll hear that, they'll see their buddies get shot, and they just won't do it. But the most effective way I've seen, or I've been able to do it, is like when I know I need to go take something and it's really important and it needs to be done now, I'll tell everyone around me, like, here's what I want to do, here's how I want to do it, follow me. And usually that last one gets people to move up, because if they know what I'm doing, they have the commander's intent, and they know how I want to do it, and then they see me going forward, generally they're going to be like, oh, well, if he's going to go, I'm going to follow him. So it works pretty well that way. Yeah.
So it's just, it's very different. It's very different. Leading Marines and leading the general populace is extremely different.
You're kidding.
So
I would have had no idea. That just doesn't make sense. Trained professionals versus civilians. No, it doesn't click. Now, I want to actually talk about as far as like maps go. Now, did you had a chance, I believe, to look over the map for Code Red?
yes, I did.
Now, what did you do as far as preparation, like, you know, planning or using the map, or speaking with any subordinates?
At the beginning of each scenario, I basically got everybody together. We didn't have a large tactical map to use. I just had the laminated printout. So I just used that, and to the best of my abilities explained the different avenues of approach that could happen coming from the other end, how we should guard these areas, how we should monitor these areas, making sure everybody has intersecting fields of fire. So that way, if somebody is running from left to right or right to left from different areas, at least it's covered by somebody. So that was just pretty much the majority of the planning, and then getting feedback from the actual players, figuring out, well, is this actually, you know, like a bottleneck, or do people usually avoid this area? You know, so like the biggest thing with the military, commanders rely on their subordinates to feed them information. So I basically used that same concept with the players and got some feedback from players, you know, and see if anybody wanted to volunteer to do certain things on the field, capture certain objectives. So
G&G Armament is asking me to rap battle. I have, what's that called? No beat or sense of style. So I'm going to curiously decline right now. And I also realize you can't really rap battle back over through the text, unless you mean me and Vince rap battle, in which case it'll be a complete disaster. But maybe sometime in the future, in which I can pre-plan the lyrics and beat and don't look like a complete idiot. However, moving on to actual different strategies for command, one thing that I noticed at Tim vs. Bob 4, which, you know, you weren't there obviously, but we did on the advice of Ballahack's staff something really interesting. In fact, I can't really take any credit for this because this is their idea wholeheartedly. Tim and I showed up, and they actually had sectioned off 3 local players for each side that knew the field really well, had played Airsoft for a long time, and they were supposed to be our subordinate commanders, essentially 3 XOs per side. And it was really great because we basically divvied up like the rebels into 3 sections, and then each one of the subordinate officers would lead that section. I would tell everyone my plan, and then I'd give those specific officers very specific orders so that they knew how to accomplish that plan. That seemed to work out really well. At least communication on that end went smoothly. I mean, radios were kind of hectic here and there, but at least like having commanders of each 3 elements made each force so much more flexible and responsive in a short amount of time. So that's, in my mind, that's always what I would want to do.
Right, which is pretty much the same thing as any services warfighting tactics.
I'm not a trained professional, so
I mean, that's the biggest thing. Chain of command, being able to relay commands and making sure everybody's on the same page, so that way everybody knows what's going on, is the biggest thing.
Sorry, I was tuning you out. What were you saying?
No, I was actually reading this comment from DM Airsoft just now. Nice job on your walkthroughs, the walk-in store. Oh, there it goes. It
Yeah, no, the
disappeared.
comments go crazy. So,
Oh, thank
um,
you, whoever it was. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Wait, did you just post that just now?
No.
Oh, okay. Actually, I want to make a note of something on Airsoft GI's Facebook page. When you guys are done with this, you can actually head back on Airsoft GI's Facebook, and you can check out the full tactical gear loadout that General Kim here wore at BB Wars Battlefront Red Alert. In case you're curious on what his exact light machine gun setup was, it was pretty handy. I got to give you credit. I mean, it looked cool. Thankfully,
Yes.
yeah, that was gone, which is necessary. Just kidding. But yeah, no, you were definitely. There were a couple moments in the actual gameplay video. Everyone around you was getting shot, but you were in the doorway, just barely had your gun peeking out, or were still laying down fire. But all the BBs were going right by your head. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
actually remember that. There was a player right behind me in the opposite corner, and he had gotten lit up so bad.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I think you can actually see it in the gameplay footage. The stream of BBs flying by me, and actually the
hitting that kid. Yeah,
and calling and him calling his
Yeah.
hit, which was pretty insane. When I saw it, I was just like, "Oh my goodness!" Like I was inches away from getting shot. Pretty
no,
good.
he got
so.
shot like 20 times,
Yeah.
real quick. So, really quick, shout out or Texas Phantoms Airsoft shout out is approved, as well as Laredo, Texas Airsoft shout out. It is likewise approved. Yeah, no, I was watching that video coincidentally last night, and I saw that, and I was like, wow, that kid got beamed, and then you were right there, just barely in a safe zone, still dishing out the fire. So
Yeah, I think after about the second, third scenario, everybody realized the amount of firepower I was putting down range to help support the rest of the Imperial side. So basically, as soon as they saw me, it was redirect fire, and there was a couple of times I was pinning pretty good. So
and there are a lot of times, at least from my perspective, that I mean, as much as you want to direct people around, you also have to do an equipment check. Like when I'm at GamePod and we're just trying to take over a specific building, say the gas station, which is a building I always have problems with, because there's only most of the windows are boarded up, and there's only access from one side. So if the enemy takes it, it's really hard to take it back. So a lot of times, I'll go around and be like, all right, who has a Thunderbeat? Who has a grenade? Anyone have a grenade? You're like second or third in line because we need to hit this building, but we need to toss it in first or else we're all dead. Other times when we're playing more outdoor games, it'll be like, all right, who has range or who has a light machine gunner? Something that can support the advance or at least like harass the enemy team as we advance somewhere else. So
right,
it's important to find out, what your team has so you can make the best use available.
exactly.
Now, we both have had the opportunity to work with vehicles. At Red Alert, we had that deuce and a half that the Imperial side was using in the first game. At some of the other games that I've commanded at, we've had a multitude of different vehicles from a gun truck that also had multiple launch rocket system. We also have the Game Pod buggy, which has a minigun that'll spin 360 degrees and has a thermal sight. It's awesome. But what was it like working with vehicles? I know you didn't have overall command of the deuce and a half, essentially, but how did it affect your game?
Most of the guys were just hopping in the back of the deuce and a half and rolling through and kind of just shooting while they were driving. After about the second run, I started kind of noticing the route that Randy was taking with the vehicle, and I started telling the Imperial side, "Hey, start using the truck as cover." You'll see that in a lot of military tactical movements. You'll see it a lot in different MILSIM events. That's a big thing because essentially, it's airsoft. So the BB's hitting the truck or whatever is not really going to damage it. And in the gameplay, BBs are not going to kill the vehicle. You need a rocket of some sort.
Of course.
So using the vehicle as mobile cover is definitely to your advantage. So I started pushing the guys to, hey, use the truck as it's moving, stay close to it, obviously don't be in between the tires where there's gaps, and make sure you're, the safe distance away from the vehicle so you don't get hurt.
Yeah, there was a minimum distance required to be away
right.
from it because we didn't want anything to happen.
I think it was like 15 feet, 20 feet, something like that.
Yeah, so, it was 15, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you ever encounter vehicle usage, that's probably one of the best things to do. Using it as mobile cover as that vehicle is moving. Obviously, with the buggy, you can't do that.
Well, we've tried it. It doesn't really work. But
right.
sometimes, never
right.
know.
Sometimes it'll hit the driver instead.
Well, it's funny. I'll see a rocket coming out and I duck, and then it hits a vehicle. I'm like, oh, great. Well, I didn't get. Oh, wait, our vehicle's down. Shit. God,
Right.
that stinks. Actually, speaking, actually not at all related to what we're talking about. We had some questions on, wait, Jake Pennington. Bob was in a credit score commercial. I was in a creditcards.com commercial, which is airing right now. Someone was asking, I can't see it right now, but where or what pistol should I get? They're looking for suggestions for an airsoft pistol. Right off the top of my head, I've got a couple I'd suggest. I'd suggest KWA 1911, the Mark series. Suggest a KWA HK45. I'd also suggest an Elite Force 1911 TAC, or you may want to get the ASG P09. That's a really good gun that you have the option of using a CO2 mag or using a green gas mag. Your suggestions?
Actually, you took two of mine. That would be the Elite Force 1911 and the KWA HK45. Most definitely the CZP09. I've seen that being used outdoors, and it works pretty well. I actually like the trigger on that.
Yeah.
I just don't personally own one, so I haven't had a chance to actually play with one yet. So I can't really tell you my opinion, pros and cons on it. But I will say one of my most favorite is the Mark 23, and I own.
That's a big pistol.
It's a big pistol, but the ammo count is there. The accessories are there. The FPS is there. The KWA, the KSC, and the TM are the three companies that I actually personally own. And I think by far the TM is probably my most favorite because it was non-blowback, and with the barrel extensions that came out back then, it actually muffled the report. So
you like non-blowback pistols?
I do, in the sense that you don't waste as much, whether it's CO2 or green gas. You don't waste as much gas shooting BBs because there's no cycling of the slide itself. So essentially, you could go through 2 or 3 mags before you need to reload the gas or the CO2 in the magazine. So non-blowbacks have their advantages. The biggest advantage with non-blowback stuff, I would personally say, is there's no moving parts externally, so if you do drop it in the dirt, it's not going to be too bad when you go to clean it.
That's good.
So
guys, we're going to get to shout outs near the end of the show, so probably about like 10 minutes. However, why don't we go over some new products really quick. These Lancer Tactical products just made it onto our site. This, I don't have the exact name for this.
Keep your eye out, kid.
Okay, but this is a Lancer Tactical AK. What's interesting about this one is that it's under $100, like a lot of other offerings from Lancer Tactical. It's lightweight. It does include a battery and a charger. It's got a plastic body, and it is field ready. And by what I believe Mark means by that is that it shoots just under 400 feet per second. So it means it's going to be competitive outdoors, which is really important. I mean, back in the day when I got into airsoft, you couldn't really get an airsoft gun for $100, and if you could, it was literally a spring rifle. So the fact that you have an AG, fires full auto, fires semi, has all the features you'd expect, even has rails on it. Besides the fact they're polymer, and it shoots just under 400 feet per second for $100, Airsoft has come a long way. So that's really cool. I believe that's currently on our website right now. Now we have the was it Beta Spetsnaz style of AK from Lancer Tactical. I believe this is also under $100. And another great thing about these Lancer Tactical guns is that they are very affordable, and they do come with a full metal gearbox, which is really important if you want your gun to last for at least a little while. I mean, these will last quite a while. So it's pretty nice, especially if you're getting into airsoft. These are great options. I mean, obviously, there are other options out there. Like G&G's got a lot of new combat machines coming out. We carry a lot of their products on our website. And speaking of that, that is actually the G&G Combat Machine SRS. The S on the end of SRS, I believe, stands for short. This is their Okay, you don't show it to them. This is their short version. This is the 7-inch version of their SR series for combat machines. They're coming out with a 7, a 9-inch, and a 12-inch version. And what's nice about this is that it has, it already has pre-installed a Keymon-style rail setup. They've also got a very aggressively designed receiver. It's stylized like a lot of innovative billet receiver designs you'd see in the real firearms market. Has flip-up front and rear sights. Has a cool extended charging handle, which looks pretty aggressive. It's also got a, I believe it's the GSVO3. Forgive me, Gene G, if I don't get that stock name correct, but they designed a custom stock for these guns. It's got a battery compartment. It's also got a friction lock right here, which is very nice. It'll make the stock stay in place. It's also they designed the butt stock to come off and swivel, so it's easy to get batteries in. They also designed the battery compartment. If you don't know what you're doing, they also designed the battery compartment to accommodate a very wide array of batteries. Just don't worry about it, Vince. It's fine. Yeah, attaboy, attaboy. Anyway, really fun gun. They also the included orange muzzle brake on here will also have threading. So if you want to attach any aftermarket barrel extensions made by G&G, that'll be an option. So it's really cool for a combat machine. And I think that's priced around $215, and the 9-inch is $230, and the 12-inch is $245, I believe. So I'm sure G&G will correct me if they're still here. Also, this is really cool. I saw this just today. We got the M-Lock vertical grip. If you guys aren't familiar with the M-Lock rails, it's a really interesting design that's come out from Magpul, and I believe it's open source, which is how we at Airsoft GI were able to design our own M-Lock rail setup, which you can get on our website. I personally use an M-Lock rail on my custom AK that was built by the tech department. It's really great. I honestly find it incredibly versatile as far as rails go. So that's a rail design for the M-Lock system. It's really awesome. I would highly suggest checking out the M-Lock system if you don't know anything about it or if you're curious a little bit. Holy crap, lightning just struck my house. Wow. That's not good. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you stay safe, StarX channel. Airsoft lever. Tri-State Airsoft Shoutout is approved, as well as Riversoft Airsoft Shoutout, which is approved. Ooh, I want the GI Top 5 to come back. That's a very good request, and we'll actually throw that up the chain of command because I missed that show. Delta 30 unit, your shoutout is approved. All right. How about the AA-12? Are you familiar with the AA-12 that Tokyo Marui is working on?
I seen some of the reviews on the internet. I did see the video when they did release it to the public. It actually looks really awesome. That's a very ingenious design that they came up with, and knowing Tokyo Marui and their R&D guys, they like pushing the limits. So you know, I'm waiting to see how this thing turns out.
Yeah, just on functionality, I mean, I'm hoping like everything lives up to what I saw on camera. So
yes, most definitely.
Delta 6 Airsoft in Connecticut, your shout out
is approved.
Well played, Vince. Well played. SAT Airsoft in Michigan, your shout out is approved. Spectrum Airsoft, your shout out is approved. Just like Caesar Batello's shout out, which is approved. And Mr. Muncherman, good to see you back here. Your shout out is approved. Okay. Now back onto topic. What are actually? I have some sayings for you that I read in a Half-Life Opposing Force manual. You ever heard of Half-Life Opposing Force?
I have.
Great game. Now they had all these different sayings, two of which I'm going to say to you right now, and I want you to respond to each of them. First one: friendly fire isn't.
Yeah, of course it's not friendly.
Excellent. All right, next one is: no plan survives first contact intact.
That's correct.
Yeah,
100%.
So tell me as far as like your plans as a commander of Imperial troops at Red Alert, like, you know, how did your plans change from first contact, and how did you adjust them? As far as you can remember.
Let's see. I remember the very first scenario where we had to get Lin Wojcik. We thought that, you know, these guys are going to be right here. You know, we knew where they were at. We knew exactly where the whereabouts of Lynn would be, which was actually pretty close to us. So I figured, hey, we can actually run and grab her, and we're all right there. Our spawn's right there. It shouldn't be a problem. But
volume of fire.
As soon as the whistle went, it was game on, and yeah, we got pinned for a good amount of time, and yeah, Team Therapist took off with Lynn. So.
I was surprised because I thought, like, seeing how rough it was for you guys to get out of that spawn in that little Mexico area, which is a smaller city in the old Code Red airsoft base. I was surprised that they weren't actually able to get her out really quickly, because even though like you guys were pinned down in spawn, whoever your guys were shooting at were pinning down their extraction team. So she had only just moved just beyond one building and then couldn't move any further. So it was probably another 10 minutes before they actually got her out of there. So even though on your side it looked pretty tough, like they, just because of what your guys were shooting at, they weren't actually able to get her out of there quickly at all. In fact, I was surprised they ended up being able to. So.
Yeah, I wasn't able to see too much on what was going on one half of the field. That was that part where I was all the way up front with Paul Kim. But yeah, when I came back around to figure out what was going on, like, do we have Lynn? Is the objective secure? What's going on? Come to find out that the guys in Mexico had gotten pinned down, and the guys over on the San Diego side, when they were swinging around to the left to come up halfway up the field, they were getting pinned down by the Mercs, the Merc squad. Aaron and
Oh yes,
yeah.
we had some of our GI employees coming out there just to have a good time. They're really, I mean, they're great players. They've been playing for a long time.
Oh yeah.
But some of your sales floor guys were also wrecking fools, like Vince Contreras. You see, he threw a
The
grenade. He threw a
Yeah.
grenade over one wall that my rebel troopers had just run up to, and it detonated in midair right in front of them. I saw one guy like reach back as if to like not call it, and he's like, "This, it blew up right in my face. Like, how can I not call this?"
Right.
So he threw it, killed 3 or 4 guys, and then he immediately
Rushed
went out
right
and
after.
just murked fools. So I mean, you guys
Yeah.
had some ringers too, for
Oh
real.
yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. And not to doubt any of the work that any of the other Imperials that played that day did either. Eventually, they started understanding. With military folk, we have a tendency to spew out military jargon or terms, sayings, without second guessing or thinking about, hey, this guy's a civilian, he doesn't understand what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually the guys caught on to when I was saying everybody needs to establish a line, build a base of fire in advance. Then they started catching on, okay, this is what he means, and it started happening. But I mean, it was already closer to the end of the day.
Well, I mean, a lot of the
But-
people that aren't that experience, they don't
Right.
know what a base of fire means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they started catching on to that without me having to explain, I was just quite surprised. I was like, hey, I like my Imperials.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice when your faith comes back in your team, because sometimes it can get a little tough.
Right.
I don't want to say depressing, but it takes a life out of you sometimes.
Right.
When no matter how hard you push, you don't get anywhere.
Right. Those hairy moments.
Yeah. Really quickly, Fabio Webb is asking for a shout out for the Hunter's Airsoft. I can't approve it because I already did approve it right at the beginning of the show. So if you get a chance, go all the way back to the beginning and you will see that shout out. And in case you guys were wondering why those folks got shout outs first, it's because I made a post right before the live show on Airsoft GI's Facebook. So make sure to check our Facebook constantly. It's saying if anyone had any battle buddies or teams they like to run with, tag it in that Facebook post, and I will do my best to do a shout out for it. And we did it right away. So make sure to keep your eye on our Facebook. And if you want to make sure you see everything from our Facebook, go onto the page and click that button in the upper right corner. I believe it's like setup or something, and it'll say get notifications. That's so you see everything from our Facebook page and not just stuff here and there that the Facebook algorithm will allow you to. Let's see more comments below. Someone was asking earlier if the G&G Combat Machine 16 R8L is a good gun, or if I would recommend it. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend it. Combat machines are great. If you're looking to expand your inventory, get a beginner gun, or even like something between a beginner and mid-level gun. I mean, it's great to have in your inventory just to start out, or a loaner gun, or a backup gun, or even a main gun. So great guns. That's really all I've seen.
Actually, we have a 1-minute review coming out this week on the R8L. So
Oh, wow. Good timing.
Stay tuned to our retail store page, and you should be able to see it get reviewed by one of the service reps or
Now,
sales reps.
what's the name of your retail store page?
It is Airsoft GI Retail Store.
KC Ops Airsoft is asking me to sign their baby and asking for a shout out. I'm not sure if they're sarcastic on both of those, but you're getting a shout out either way. KC Ops Airsoft, your shout out is approved. However, I will not sign babies. I've signed some weird stuff as my time working here. However, I can't sign babies. Mongo from Team Therapist has to be probably the worst thing I've ever signed.
Like the forehead.
Oh, no. I actually just finished signing a kid's side of his face. He requested that, so I was like, okay. Mongo's right behind him and pulls up his shirt. He's like, probably some belly button. And I was like, oh, my God. All right, sure.
Did you put like B? And then
I went all
belly button.
around
Oh,
the belly button.
okay,
So,
okay.
and the thing is, he was like staring at me the whole time. I was like, yeah, good work, Bob. I was like, God dang it, Mongo. He's a really funny guy. Team Therapist is a great team. They're all just out there to have fun. They don't take themselves very seriously at all. Bob, this is a question for both of, or I'm going to make it for both of us. Bob, what is your opinion on snipers at Milsim Ops?
With snipers, if you can put them in the right spot, and they pretty much sit there all day. I mean, snipers for commanders work well in the sense of not only are you able to get those onesie twosie guys that are trying to flank, but they also work as your eyes and ears. So, with that scope, with that glass, you can see further out than most people can, and they can call out targets for you. So if you have that rocket launcher, or any kind of ordnance, or maybe there's a team flanking already and he sees a enemy movement in that direction, he's going to be able to call it out and let you know before you even get to it.
Before I get into what I think about snipers and Milsim Ops, I just want to say, Tactical Snoopy, your shout out is approved. Now, I used to, when I first got into sniping, I was all about, fixed position, find a good hide, stay the whole time. But, that may work in real sniping. I'm not a real sniper. I don't know for certain. However, in airsoft sniping, I find that it's good to have a mix of camouflage and movement, because, I mean, airsoft sniper rifles just have some more range than an AEG. Right. So you have to take advantage of that range, stay just outside the AEG's range, and at the same time be effective. So I think they're great at harassing, firing from the flank, or at least like pushing people back a bit, slowly going forward and getting into your effective range and staying out of their effective range. I also think it's great for what Vince here said, is that, the great eyes and ears. You want to send them off in ones and twos to the flank, or just ahead of the main force to harass the enemy team and also report back on the disposition of the enemy forces. So it's a really great way to have a team that's for recon, as also for harassing fire, and also taking out enemy officers. Although that's a lot harder than you might think. I mean, sniping, from my experience in airsoft, it's not that hard to shoot someone that's standing still or even moving a tiny bit. But if they're running, jogging, anything like that, it is very difficult to hit someone. So you really got to catch them, in somewhat of a more stationary position, or when they're in cover or shooting. So we definitely, in my opinion, after playing for so long, using ghillie suits, building my own, I definitely think being mobile and camouflage as a sniper are the two most important things. So, and they're not mutually exclusive, by the way. You can be camouflaged and still have the ability to move around quickly. Okay, Cobra Airsoft, your shout out is approved. Well done, well done. Yeah, I like that dramatic pause. Taylor H, your shout out is approved. Well done. We only got a couple minutes left, so Blood God Painting Steve Dugan, or Dugan, it's probably Dugan. Your shout out is approved. Hopefully the Blood God references to Warhammer 40,000, in which case I salute you. Whew. All right. Excuse me. Okay. Cobra Airsoft already got their shout out, so we're good on that. How do you deal with people who don't call their hits? That's a very good question. Some people have different answers. Generally, I mean, this is a sport of honor, so I would generally tell the field staff, you want to go make them aware of the issue. It's considered bad sportsmanship to yell out or try and call players out, and honestly, it's just, I don't want to say it's embarrassing per se. It just doesn't look good on a field. It's like more bad blood. So it's better to just let the referee staff know, so they can go over, take a look at it, and deal with the incident themselves instead of interjecting yourself. However, with less ref staff, it's tougher. I mean, I know when we used to run a lot together, I mean, we would encounter some people who would just walk through a rain of BBs and nothing. Yeah. So you'd have to kind of shoot them a little bit where it hurt, like not in the vest, like in the leg, or something else.
A little bit more exposed, so they actually feel the BB impact versus the gear absorbing all that energy and not feeling it at all.
Yeah, because I think that was an issue long before we ever worked at GI that we had at a local field, where there wasn't always ref staff there, or there weren't that many referees on the field, and just these people would just not call anything. So yeah, that was frustrating. I don't even want to mention what team it was, because
John Huffman, I wish that worked. Call your hits or I'll call your mom.
That's a good one. Oh man, Bob, will you be back in Texas for D14 Texas Star 4? I don't believe currently I have plans to go back there. I've got some family stuff I've got to handle in California right now. Ooh, that's interesting. Speedsoft versus Milsim.
That was the last live show I did
Oh, really?
with Mark.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so if we can go over it really quickly.
Well, I mean, you and I both kind of came from that speed soft era.
Not true.
Well, you
When-
started with Line Claws, and then you met us, and yeah.
I started playing. Well, what Vince is referencing is like Vince and I are on the same Airsoft team, Blackwatch. Long before we started working here, but you know, you guys cut your teeth in Airsoft as far as like indoor CQB, and I grew up playing outdoors. So when I met you guys and started Airsofting with you, you know, you guys had to teach me a lot about being indoor. Like, remember Gene hiding in corners, and I would walk right by them and be like, "Bang, bang, you're dead. Check your corners, Bob." It was really important to know because I was used to outdoor.
Right, right.
So I grew up playing outdoor airsoft and going to Milsim games. So I got into Speedsoft with you guys, and like our viewers, I'm sure understand, it's very, very different. So why don't you give your explanation? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, I mean, they look at Speedsoft now, and it's like a going trend. I've been doing airsoft for 13 years now, and originally it was called CQB. It still is CQB. Speedsoft is just the newer term for it because it's kind of based off of paintball, I guess I would say, because paintball has their own speedball version, which is very similar, super close quarters, very high paced. Now, when you go with airsoft, it's a little bit more high paced because of the rate of fire things you can do, and just the upgradability of AEGs nowadays is just enormous. So, I mean, back then when we were pretty much playing with stock guns back then, and it costed a fortune to upgrade something like that. And there really were no limits back then. There was no ROF limit back then, because we couldn't really tell what the rate of fire was. Chronos back then, whether it was a light chrono or a paintball chrono, it was still pretty inaccurate when it came to reading rate of fires. So everybody just kind of had the same consensus of, well, just call it.
Yeah.
And then Milsim, I just recently started getting into Milsim because, you know, I was in the military, and then Milsim has grown immensely over the past, I would say, 10 years or so. And Milsim is a lot of fun because it goes back to a lot of the things that I did in the military. So it's a very familiar environment for me. So when it comes to stuff like that, I love camping. You know, I mean, who doesn't like playing airsoft? Maybe the guys that don't like guns, but and just having a good time out in the field, like with your buddies. You know, it's like camping with benefits.
Real quick, I'm going to try and condense my answer to a very small paragraph. However, 2 shout-outs first. Rogue Candy, your shout-out is approved. And call sign Mako. You've been asking for a while, and I'm sorry. I kept forgetting. But call sign Mako's shout-out is approved. Real quick, Speedsoft for me, I mean, you would see players that have, you know, high rate of fire guns that are wearing lightweight loadouts, and right as the game kicks off, they're like halfway down the field. Speedsoft to me is taking as much of the field before the enemy has a chance to react as you can, and just keeping them back, I don't want to say in their corner, but back on their third of the field. So go up and grab as much terrain as you can, use your high rate of fire guns to keep the enemy suppressed, and just pick apart the team. Milsim, you know, you have magazine restrictions, gear requirements, BDU requirements or restrictions. There's a lot more rules to give you that military simulation immersion. You want to feel like you're in your own war movie or your own battle. So that's it's 2 very different aspects. I know the Milsim community doesn't like going up against Speedsofting community for a number of reasons. I'm sure some of which it takes them out of the immersion. They definitely, I mean, if I were a Milsim player going up against a Speedsofter, I would feel like I'm, you know, at a disadvantage because I don't have a high rate of fire gun, unlimited ammo, or somewhat unlimited ammo, and a lightweight kit. You know, I'd be going for, you know, realism. That's why I like using my LM4. All right, well, guys, I'm sorry we are getting to the end of the show, so I'll do really quick shout-outs. Thunder Conway, your shout-out is approved, as well as Tristan M., whose shout-out is approved. The American SMG, your shout-out
is approved.
Well done. All right, that's going to do it for our live show, guys, except for one last shout out for Wasatch Airsoft Group. Sorry if I mangled that. Your shout out is approved. Well done. Thank you, Vince. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching our live show on July 21st, 2015. Thank you, Vince Kim, for showing up, or General Kim.
My pleasure.
If you guys ever want to meet him or say hi or just give him a dandy high five, you can head over to our West Coast walk-in store in Walnut, California. Once again, I'm Bob the Axeman Hildebrand. This is
General Kim.
and this has been the GITV Live Show. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.